My mom found out my salary, then showed up with my spoiled brother, demanding I pay their bills. I'm Jasmine. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. My brother Cameron was mom's golden child who could do no wrong, while I was expected to be the mature, reliable daughter. After college, I moved to Denver, built a career in digital marketing, and finally landed a senior position at a well-respected agency. For the first time, I had financial stability, something I'd worked incredibly hard for. I hadn't shared many details with my family. We talked occasionally, but I kept things surface level. Not because I was hiding anything, but because every conversation with my mother, Linda, inevitably turned into her asking for money or comparing me to someone else's more successful daughter. My peaceful existence shattered one ordinary Wednesday evening. I had just finished a Zoom call with my team when my doorbell rang persistently. "Coming? Just a second," I called out, not expecting visitors. When I opened the door, my stomach dropped. Mom stood there with Cameron, both wearing expectant smiles. "Surprise!" Mom exclaimed, arms outstretched. "Aren't you going to invite us in?" "Mom, Cameron, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in Tucson." Can't a mother visit her successful daughter? She pushed past me into my apartment, eyes scanning every detail. "Nice place. Much nicer than what you described." Cameron followed, dropping his duffel bag on my freshly cleaned floor. "Sweet setup, sis. Got any Coors Light?" I closed the door, already feeling a headache forming. "I wasn't expecting company. How long are you staying?" "Just a few days," Mom said, already making herself comfortable on my couch. "Maybe a week, depending." "Depending on what?" I asked, crossing my arms. "On how things go," she replied cryptically. "Cameron, show your sister the thing." My brother pulled out his phone, smirking. "Check this out." He handed me his phone, displaying a LinkedIn notification. It was my recent promotion announcement, including my new title and company. "We were so proud," Mom said, her voice dripping with something that wasn't quite pride. "So I called your cousin Ashley, you know, the one who works in HR, and she told me what someone in your position typically makes." "Quite impressive, Jasmine." I felt my face flush. "You checked up on my salary." "Don't be dramatic," Mom dismissively. "Family shouldn't have secrets." "Yeah," Cameron chimed in, "especially rich family members." I took a deep breath. "Why are you really here?" Mom's expression shifted to something more serious. "Well, since you asked, we're in a bit of a situation back home." What kind of situation?" "Financial," she said flatly. "The house needs a new roof and Cameron's truck broke down. He can't get to work without reliable transportation." "I lost my job anyway," Cameron interjected, already rummaging through my refrigerator. "What? When did that happen?" 3 months ago, he said casually. "Not my fault. Boss was a jerk. And you didn't think to mention this during our calls?" I asked, directing the question at Mom. "I didn't want to worry you," she replied, studying her nails. "But now that we know you're doing so well." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you asking me for money?" "Not asking," Mom corrected. "Family helps family, Jasmine. Your father would have expected it." "Don't bring Dad into this," I said sharply. Dad had passed away 5 years ago, and she knew mentioning him was my weak spot. "Listen," Cameron said, mouthful of my leftover Thai food. "You've got this fancy job and apartment. We're just asking you to help out your family. 10 grand would cover everything." $10,000? I nearly choked. 15 would be better, Mom added. "Give us some breathing room." "You can't be serious." "Perfectly serious," Mom said, her tone hardening. "After everything I sacrificed for you, this is how you repay me? By being selfish?" "Selfish. I worked for everything I have. Nobody handed me anything." "Oh, please," Cameron scoffed. "You always thought you were better than us." "That's not true." "It is," Mom interrupted. "Always had to be the perfect one, didn't you? Well, now's your chance to prove you care about family." I felt like I was in some bizarre alternate reality. "I need some air. We'll discuss this tomorrow." "Fine," Mom said. "But we'll need an answer before we leave, and we're staying here, of course." "Of course," I muttered, grabbing my keys and phone. Outside, I called my best friend Olivia, who lived in the same building. "They just showed up demanding money?" she asked incredulously after I explained. 15,000, I confirmed, like I'm some kind of ATM. "That's insane," Olivia said. What are you going to do? I don't know. I can't just kick them out. Why not? It's your apartment. It's complicated, I sighed. Family always is. Listen. Olivia's voice turned serious. Remember what you told me about your childhood? How your mom always favored Cameron? How you paid your own way through college while they helped him with everything? This isn't about family, Jasmine. This is about them taking advantage of you again. Deep down, I knew she was right. This wasn't the first time they'd tried to use me, just the most blatant. Come stay with me tonight, Olivia offered. Give yourself space to think. I accepted gratefully. The next morning, I returned to my apartment ready to set boundaries. Mom and Cameron were having breakfast. My breakfast at my table. There she is, Mom exclaimed. We were starting to worry. We need to talk, I said firmly. Perfect timing, Mom replied. We've been discussing how to handle the arrangement. Monthly transfers would probably be easiest. Monthly, I echoed. Well, yes, she continued casually. The $15,000 would help immediately, but we'll need ongoing support until Cameron finds suitable employment and I can get the house in order. So you want me to support both of you indefinitely? Don't be dramatic, Cameron said, just until we get back on our feet. And when might that be? I asked. They exchanged glances. Hard to say exactly, Mom hedged. That's when Sarah from accounting's words rang in my head. Just last week, she'd mentioned how her brother had manipulated her into supporting him for years. Once they see you as an ATM, she'd warned, they'll never stop withdrawing. No, I said firmly. Excuse me? Mom's eyes narrowed. No, I repeated. I won't be giving you $15,000 or monthly payments after everything I've done for you. Mom's voice rose. I raised you, I clothed you, I fed you. That's what parents are supposed to do. It's not something children repay with cash, I countered. You ungrateful little... I think you should both leave, I interrupted. Today. Cameron stood towering over me. You think you're so much better than us, don't you? Little Miss Perfect with her fancy job and fancy apartment. This isn't about being better, I said evenly. This is about respect and boundaries. Boundaries? Mom laughed bitterly. Family doesn't have boundaries, Jasmine. Healthy families do, I insisted. And healthy families don't show up unannounced demanding money. We're not leaving until we get what we came for, Cameron said, crossing his arms. I took out my phone. Then I'll call building security. Mom's expression changed instantly. You wouldn't dare. Try me. We stared at each other for a long moment before she grabbed her purse. Come on, Cameron, we're clearly not wanted here. But Mom... Now, Cameron. As they gathered their things, Mom turned to me one last time. This isn't over, Jasmine. Family is forever. After they left, I collapsed onto my couch, emotionally drained. I should have felt relieved, but instead I felt guilty. Maybe I was being selfish. I called my old therapist, Dr. Rivera, and scheduled an emergency session. What you're feeling is normal, she assured me later that afternoon. They've conditioned you to feel responsible for their problems. But they're my family, I protested weakly. Yes, and families should support each other, she agreed. But support goes both ways. Have they supported your dreams, your independence, or have they only taken? Her questions lingered with me as I returned home. I was just settling in when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Aunt Caroline. Your mother is devastated. How could you treat family this way? She sacrificed everything for you. Before I could respond, another text came through. Then another. Cousins, uncles, family, friends I hadn't spoken to in years, all berating me for being selfish and abandoning my family. That's when I realized Mom had launched a full smear campaign against me. The next day, things escalated. Mom created a social media fundraiser titled, Abandoned by My Successful Daughter, sharing a carefully crafted story about how I'd forgotten my roots and left my struggling family behind. Olivia was furious when I showed her. This is character assassination. You need to fight back. And say what? Air all our dirty laundry publicly? Not publicly, Olivia said thoughtfully. Strategically. Over the next few days, I documented everything. The surprise visit, the demands, the threats, the social media campaign. Then I reached out to a few key family members I had good relationships with. My cousin Natalie, who had always seen through Mom's manipulations. My Uncle Richard, Dad's brother, who had witnessed Mom's favoritism firsthand. And my grandmother, Mom's mother, who had a strong sense of justice despite her daughter's behavior. I need to talk to you about what's really happening, I told each of them, sharing the full story. Natalie wasn't surprised. Aunt Linda tried the same thing with me last year when I got my promotion. I just didn't have the courage to stand up to her like you did. Uncle Richard was blunter. Your mother always had an entitled streak. Your father protected you from the worst of it. But it was Grandma Helen who truly surprised me. Jasmine, she said firmly after hearing me out. Your mother has been taking advantage of people her entire life. It stops now. What do you mean? I mean, I'm tired of enabling her behavior. That fundraiser, it's coming down today. True to her word, Grandma Helen called a family meeting without me and laid down the law. The fundraiser disappeared and the text messages stopped. But the damage to my relationship with Mom and Cameron was done. 2 months passed with no contact. Then on a rainy Sunday, my doorbell rang again. This time I checked the peephole first. Mom stood alone, looking considerably less confident than during her last visit. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. Mom? Jasmine, she said, her voice softer than I'd heard it in years. May I come in just to talk? Against my better judgment, I let her in. Cameron got arrested, she said once seated. Drunk driving, it's his 3rd offense. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, genuinely concerned but wary. Is he okay? Physically, yes, but he's facing serious charges this time. Jail time. I waited for the inevitable ask. I'm not here for money, she said, surprising me. I didn't know who else to talk to. Your grandmother isn't speaking to me, and most of the family has taken her side. What did you expect, Mom? You tried to extort money from me, then publicly humiliated me when I refused. I know, she admitted. I was wrong. I nearly fell off my chair. In 30 years, I'd never heard my mother admit fault. Cameron losing his freedom. It's made me realize what I've done to him, to you, to our family. I enabled his worst tendencies and punished your best ones. Mom, please let me finish, she interrupted. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Jasmine. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I see now what I've done, and I'm sorry. For a moment, I almost believed her. Then I noticed her eyeing my new smartwatch, a gift to myself for landing a major client. Why are you really here, Mom? She hesitated. Cameron needs a good lawyer. The public defender says he's looking at 18 months minimum. And there it was. So you are here for money? Not like before, she insisted. I've been talking to Grandma Helen. She's helped me see how manipulative I've been. I'm prepared to take out a loan against the house, but I thought maybe you'd advise me. You've always been good with financial decisions. I studied her face, looking for signs of the old manipulation. They were there, but something else was, too. Desperation. Maybe even a hint of genuine remorse. I'll help you find a good lawyer, I said finally. I have a friend who specializes in DUI cases, but I won't be paying for it. Thank you, she said, looking relieved. That's more than I deserve. It is, I agreed. And Mom, this is the last time. If you ever try to manipulate me or guilt me or spread lies about me again, we're done permanently. I understand, she said quietly. And I think for the first time, she truly did. After she left, Olivia called to check in. I told her what happened. Do you believe she's changed? She asked skeptically. No, I admitted. But I believe she's desperate enough to pretend, and this time, I'm going in with my eyes open. True to my word, I connected Mom with my lawyer friend Brandon, but made it clear I wouldn't be involved financially. Over the following months, I maintained strict boundaries. When Mom called asking for just a small loan until her next paycheck, I declined firmly. When she suggested I visit Cameron in jail because he needs family support, I reminded her that support doesn't have to be in person. 6 months later, Cameron was released early for good behavior. He called me directly, something he'd never done before. Hey, sis, he said, sounding different, subdued. Got a minute? Sure, Cameron, how are you? Sober, he said with the hollow laugh. In 96 days. That's really good. Listen, he continued awkwardly. Part of the program is making amends. I've been a terrible brother to you. Always jealous, always taking. I'm not asking for anything, just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Unlike Mom's apology, Cameron seemed genuine. There was no angle, no hidden request. Thank you for saying that, I replied. It means a lot. Mom's still Mom, he warned. She talks a good game about changing, but old habits die hard. Just be careful. I will be. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment reflecting. The family I'd grown up with was fundamentally broken, maybe beyond repair. But within that brokenness, small changes were possible. Cameron finding sobriety, Mom facing consequences even if she hadn't truly reformed, and me finally standing my ground. A week later, Grandma Helen invited me to lunch. Over dessert, she squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you, she said simply. Standing up to them took courage. I don't feel courageous, I admitted. I feel guilty sometimes, like I abandoned them. You didn't abandon anyone, she corrected firmly. You refused to be their crutch. There's a difference. Your mother and brother need to stand on their own 2 feet. Do you think they can? I asked. Grandma considered this. Cameron, maybe. Your mother? I'm less optimistic. But that's not your responsibility, Jasmine. It never was. As I drove home, I realized something important. The revenge I'd fantasized about, seeing Mom and Cameron suffer for their actions, wasn't what I truly wanted. What I wanted was freedom from their manipulation and the space to build my own life on my own terms. And in standing firm, I'd finally achieved that. The following week, I received a letter from Cameron with a check enclosed for $500. First installment, his note read. I can never repay everything I've taken from you, but I'm going to try. No strings attached. I didn't cash the check. Instead, I called him. Keep it, I said. Use it to build your new life. But I owe you. You don't owe me money, Cameron, just respect. And it sounds like you're starting to figure that out. Then there was a long pause before he replied. Thanks, sis, for everything. As for Mom, she eventually stopped asking for financial help directly, though she still dropped hints about difficult times and how family should support each other. The difference was that now I recognized the manipulation for what it was and refused to engage. Last month, she lost the house, the one she'd threatened to take a loan against for Cameron's lawyer, but never did. She called in tears, expecting me to offer a place to stay or money for a deposit on an apartment. Instead, I sent her information for affordable housing options and a job placement service for seniors. She was furious at first, accusing me of being heartless. I'm not being heartless, I told her calmly. I'm being helpful in ways that don't enable destructive patterns. She hung up on me. But 3 days later, she called back to say she'd applied for one of the apartments and had an interview at a local Target. It's not what I'm used to, she sniffed, but it's a start. It was a small victory, but a real one. 3 weeks after Mom started her new job, I got a call from Uncle Richard. Your mother asked me for money today, he said without preamble. My stomach dropped. What did she say? That she's barely making ends meet on retail wages. That her own daughter abandoned her, that family should help family. He paused. I told her no. You did? I did. And I told her why. I told her about how you tried to help her find resources, how you connected her with a lawyer for Cameron, how you've maintained boundaries while still showing up when it truly mattered. She wasn't happy. I can imagine. The thing is, Jasmine, I should have done this years ago. After your father died, I watched Linda drain his life insurance on frivolous things while you were struggling through college. I watched her enable Cameron's drinking. I said nothing because I didn't want family drama. I was a coward. Uncle Richard, let me finish. What you did took real strength. You broke a generational cycle. Your grandmother sees it. I see it. Even some of the family members who initially sided with Linda are starting to see it. After we hung up, I felt something shift inside me. For years, I'd carried the weight of being the difficult daughter, the one who wouldn't just go along to keep the peace. But maybe I wasn't difficult. Maybe I was just healthy. That weekend, Natalie invited me to her daughter's birthday party. It was the first family gathering I'd attended since the incident. I almost declined, worried about the awkwardness, but Natalie insisted. Most people know the truth now, she said. And the ones who don't, they're not worth worrying about. She was right. At the party, several relatives approached me with quiet apologies. Aunt Caroline, who'd sent that first angry text, actually hugged me. I'm sorry, she whispered. Linda told us you'd refuse to help with basic necessities. She made it sound like you'd cut them off completely out of spite. She left out some important details, I said diplomatically. I know that now. Helen set us straight. Even the cousins who'd remained neutral made an effort to reconnect. By the end of the party, I felt more embraced by my extended family than I had in years. Mom didn't attend, of course. According to Grandma Helen, she'd been invited but declined, claiming she wouldn't be welcome. She's wallowing, Grandma said matter-of-factly. Hoping someone will feel sorry enough to rescue her. Don't take the bait. I didn't. 2 months later, I got promoted again, this time to Director of Digital Strategy. It came with a significant raise and more responsibility. When I shared the news with my team, they cheered. When I told Olivia, she insisted on taking me out to celebrate. But I didn't tell Mom, not because I was hiding it, but because my achievements were no longer ammunition for her manipulation. They were mine alone. Mine. Cameron found out through social media and sent a simple text. Proud of you, sis. You've earned it. That meant more than any celebration dinner. A month after my promotion, Mom finally reached out. Not with demands or guilt trips, but with a simple question. How are you doing, Jasmine? We talked for 20 minutes. She told me about her job at Target, how she'd been promoted to a team lead position. She told me about the small apartment she'd found, how she was learning to budget properly for the first time in her life. It's hard, she admitted, being responsible for myself. I always thought I was, but I wasn't. I was just moving money around and expecting someone to catch me when I fell. That takes a lot of self-awareness to recognize, I said carefully. Therapy helps, she said, surprising me again. Grandma Helen insisted, said if I wanted any chance of rebuilding relationships with the family, I needed to do the work. We didn't make plans to visit. We didn't promise weekly calls. But it was a start, a real one this time, built on honesty rather than obligation. As fall turned to winter, life settled into a new rhythm. I threw myself into my work, traveled to conferences, mentored junior colleagues. I dated casually. Nothing serious, just enjoying the freedom of building a life on my terms. Olivia and I started a tradition of Sunday brunches where we dissect the week and plan adventures. Sometimes Natalie joined us, and those mornings filled with laughter and mimosas felt like the family gatherings I'd always wanted but never had. Cameron celebrated a year of sobriety. Uncle Richard and I drove down to Tucson for the ceremony. Watching my brother accept his chip, seeing the clarity in his eyes, I felt something I hadn't felt for him in years. Hope. After the ceremony, Cameron and I grabbed coffee. You know, he said, stirring his Americano, I used to hate you. I blinked. Wow, okay. Not really hate. Resent, maybe. You always had your life together while I was a mess. Mom always compared us. Why can't you be more like Jasmine? It drove me crazy. I never knew she did that. She did, constantly. And instead of trying to be better, I just leaned into being worse. If I was going to be the failure anyway, might as well commit to it. He looked at me. But that wasn't your fault. That was me being a coward. You're not a coward now, I said. I'm trying not to be. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. I'm moving to Phoenix, he announced. Fresh start. Got a job with a construction company. Found a sober living house. Uncle Richard's helping me get set up. That's amazing, Cameron. Yeah, it is. He grinned. And for the first time in years, it looked genuine. Who knows, maybe someday I'll have a fancy apartment like yours. You'll get there, I said, one day at a time. As I drove back to Denver that evening, I thought about how far we'd all come. Not perfect, not healed completely, but better, growing. Last week, on the anniversary of that awful day when Mom and Cameron showed up at my door, Grandma Helen called. I wanted you to know, she said, that Linda paid me back the money I loaned her for first month's rent. Really? Every penny. Took her a year, but she did it. I think she's actually trying, Jasmine. That's good to hear. I'm not saying you need to let your guard down, Grandma continued. But I wanted you to know that your boundaries, they didn't just protect you. They pushed everyone to grow. After we hung up, I stood on my balcony looking out at the Denver skyline. Somewhere out there, Mom was working a closing shift. Cameron was framing houses in Phoenix. Uncle Richard was probably grilling steaks for his family. Grandma Helen was likely knitting and watching her crime shows. And I was here, in the life I'd built through hard work and hard choices. What's your limit when it comes to helping family? Where do you draw the line between supporting loved ones and enabling harmful behaviors? I'm curious what you would have done in my situation. The truth I've learned is this: loving your family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. It's clarity. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their choices. It hasn't been easy. There have been lonely nights when I've questioned everything, wondered if I was too harsh, too unforgiving. But then I remember how it felt to be manipulated, to be seen as nothing more than a source of money. I remember the freedom that came with standing my ground, and I know beyond any doubt that I made the right choice. Not because everything turned out perfectly. It didn't. But because I chose myself when no one else would. Because I refused to set myself on fire to keep others warm. Because I finally learned that I'm worthy of respect, even from my own family. Especially from my own family. And that lesson, that's worth more than any amount of money they could have asked.